people don't really understand that, like, to get to where you think you want to be, you have to first become the type of person that deserves to get that. When you own that, then road bumps that you hit along the way, that's just going to be part of the process.
Yep.
You're not going to get to the other side of this until you go through those things. And so how quickly can I get there and go through those things? The people we found that not only were optimistic, but they had the most grit and they had the most resilience. That optimism really helped with that because they knew,
that's right,
this is actually going to be a good thing for me. You know, going through this right now is going to help me so much more down the road. And I think, unfortunately, most people don't have that.
Hello and welcome. This is Brian Delaney with Unlock Potential, where we get together with top experts in their field who have simple, profound advice to help you and I live better lives, to be able to be more fit to serve the people around us and answer that question, the question that nags within all of us: how good can I be and how great can I make it for people around me?
Welcome back to Unlock Potential. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be sitting down with Brandon Ellison, founding partner and CEO of Quility, as well as Symmetry Financial Group. He's not only an expert on positive psychology, but he's been a coach and a leader in my life, helping me to get to new levels. And I know this conversation will do the same for you. Join us. So let's dig in, Brandon.
Yep.
I remember a few years ago, I think I was like 3 or 4 years into my career, maybe. So it must have been like 8 or 9 years ago. But we were in a position growing the company. You were really focused on that. Seemingly out of left field, we had a lot of training before that. But you introduced the impact that positive psychology was having on you, your business development, everything like that. And you really brought that to the company through the happiness advantage. That was the first time I experienced that. Why is positive psychology a resource for every CEO that they should be leveraging? And how much does it have to do with success in your mind?
You know, I first off, thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Thanks for being here. Appreciate it.
You know, I was introduced to Sean Achor through, believe it or not, my wife used to watch an Oprah show, and I can't remember what it was, but she would have guests on, and
it was something Sunday, show? Right?
Super Soul Sunday.
Super Soul Sunday, yeah.
It was a great show.
Yeah.
And she had Sean Achor on one time, and you know, he got into understanding what people want, why they want it. You know, the book was The Happiness Advantage, and I think that kind of became a buzzword. Happy. And I guess maybe now more we think about it as contentment, because happiness obviously can be fleeting.
Yeah.
Anybody that's happy all the time probably has something going on with it, maybe. But you know, maybe as far as mental illnesses go, that would be the one that you would want.
If you get to pick that, happy all the time.
If you get to pick, I did not get to pick, so I'm sure I have others. But so you know, I remember when I got into, even before I got into the insurance business, my mom calling me and saying, you need to be in sales, and here's why you need to be in sales. And, you know, there was this idea that I had a level of optimism, and she saw the impact that would have on other people that she dealt with. And she even sent me an article in Newsweek, and it was just talking about the main characteristic to be successful in sales. And then it was optimism. And optimism, I think the way that they defined it, which is a great definition, was your thought that you have the ability to change your future.
Yep.
Right? You have the ability to change through your actions, your destiny, or at least your destination. Mm-hmm. And so that always resonated with me. And then when I saw Sean Achor, he kind of put it into terms that really just opened up a way of thinking for me. I guess it was probably 30 years ago. They started in psychology. They started researching and looking into things a completely different way than they always have. You know, psychology has been studied for, 200-300 years, maybe more than that. But it had always been, we're going to study what's wrong with the people that are struggling, and we're going to try to come up with ways to help them. And what positive psychology really did is they looked at it from a different way and said, we want to study the people that are doing really well. and what are the characteristics that people that are succeeding and have happiness and contentment in their lives, what do those people do? And when you surround yourselves with salespeople like we were, I knew that it could have the impact on so many other people that it had on me. And the overall theme to that was that in the past, we thought that we were born with a certain level of optimism or happiness, or whatever the things are that you're wanting to kind of dig into. And they found through their research that none of that was true. You certainly are born with a level of these things, but the brain is malleable and you can change them with effort. And if you put a focus on, maybe it's journaling or exercising or associating with the right people, there's so many things that you can do that actually give you the power to grow that side of you. And we know that I agree with my mom that one of the most important factors you can have in any business, certainly in sales, is optimism. And so we began to study, like, how can we help people grow their level of optimism? And how do we teach people the pitfalls of the way the brain works? For example, you've accomplished so much in your career, and it was step by step by step. And so often people think, when I get to this point, I'm going to be happy. Yeah. Maybe it's an income level. Maybe it's a title. Maybe it's when I get this house, or when I get this car, or when I get this partner, or when I have these kids, my life I'll finally be there and I'll be happy. And we know that that's not really the way the brain works. And so really it was about, how do we help people understand what those pitfalls are so that we can help them overcome them and not fall into that trap? Because with salespeople, if they don't learn that, if they do fall into that trap, then what are they going to do? They're eventually going to reach a point where they think, well, maybe it's just that I'm not in the right place.
That's right.
Maybe I need to go change things up, and then I'll feel what that person feels, or maybe I will have what that person has. So that was kind of the start of it. And we went and hired a good friend of mine. My wife, Meredith, has a master's in counseling. And when we moved here to Asheville, she went to that program with a good friend of ours named Doug Zay. Doug had been working as a behavioral therapist for, probably a decade at that point, and had gone through some kind of lows of his own, not liking where he was in his career, not liking, probably battling a little bit of depression. And so he, at the same time that I was kind of finding this, probably even a little bit before, started studying this and actually took it upon himself to run clinics and workshops and stuff for all the people that he worked with, and fell in love with it. So we had him come speak at one of our conferences and knew that it was something that he would be able to add a lot of value to. And that's really opened us up to so many things. I mean, with Thrive and Ripple and everything that's kind of stemmed from that, it's allowed Meredith to kind of get in her strength zone and find her sweet spot. And it really has shaped a lot of the culture of the company.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think one of the things that we've seen, one of the benefits that we've seen, is more resilience in people, and so therefore more overall resilience in the organization. Yeah. And I remember just being that in that time, there was a lot of, if I had to look at two major themes at that point in time in my life and career as I was learning that, it would be grit or resilience, and this idea of positive psychology, of developing a positive environment, a positive culture in my own mind and heart. Yeah. And
they all come together.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't have one without the other. Yeah. And grit is so important. That was another book that we read and studied together. Because people don't really understand that, like, to get to where you think you want to be, you have to first become the type of person that deserves to get that. And that is such a moving statement. When you own that, then these little hiccups and road bumps that you hit along the way, you actually understand that that's just going to be part of the process. Yep. You're not going to get to the other side of this until you go through those things. And so how quickly can I get there and go through those things? And the people we found that not only were optimistic, but they had the most grit and they had the most resilience. That optimism really helped with that, because they knew, that's right, this is actually going to be a good thing for me. Going through this right now is going to help me so much more down the road. And I think, unfortunately,
Most people don't have that.
No, well, one of the things is where's that environment that they're learning it?
Mm-hmm.
Where is the initiation to learn it?
Yeah.
It's like this never quit mentality. It's like, yeah, that's almost right, except it's positive psychology. It's like that's the entry point. Those are the foothills to the mountaintop of getting to this place. And that positive psychology is directly linked to resilience. Those two things, they're traveling partners. Mm-hmm. And it was just this idea that, hey, I can have an impact. And you just used a word called responsibility. And it's like this idea of, and which is not such a hot topic in life, in culture, in conversation. No. It's like, hey, when was the last time you took 100% responsibility? Just curious, right? It's like, that's never how a really pleasant conversation starts, or the one, I remember having a conversation with both you and Casey, and it's like, whose fault is it that you're here? And I was like, I look back at that question and I'm like, that was a pivotal moment in my life.
Yeah.
And that question needs to be asked on a regular basis in my life. Like, wake up in the morning. Whose fault is it that you're here, and what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. No. It's I tend to try to be as direct as I can with people, but it was really that question, I think, is such a great one, because first I'm trying to gauge your response.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I need to know if I'm working with someone that will take ownership, even if you haven't before, or someone that's going to kind of play the victim card. And there's nothing more annoying or frustrating to me, or nothing that I think is more damaging to someone's ability to move forward in a positive way than that victim mentality. And gosh, I mean, we see that so often in the business that we're in.
Oh yeah.
But I'm so grateful every day that I landed in a business where if things happen, they generally happen because I allowed them to happen. And you can't say that with other businesses. I mean, listen, there were some people in 2005 and 6 and 7 that were killing it in the mortgage business. And then something outside of their control happened with the economy and everything that happens is they find themselves, and we've got people in our organization that were very successful during those days and had to kind of restart. So that'll teach you some grit and really resilience. I mean, you get to a level where you're earning, a really high 6-figure income, and in a matter of a month or two, that goes away.
Yep.
What a victim would say, they would never rebound from that.
Yep.
And so while there may be things that happen that cause the circumstances maybe that I'm going through, how I'm responding to that and where I'm going from there is what is going to determine whether or not I own it, or if I'm allowing it to happen to me and I can't overcome it.
That I guess would be a question I'm really curious about, is like inside of your perspective when it comes to working, and obviously I've seen the company, both Symmetry and now Quility, the parent company. I've seen that grow from where it was Casey in that small closet-like office before you guys even owned 2/3 of the top floor of the building that you own, and you were still in Alabama at the time. Your pool table was over in the other one.
That's right.
In the beginning, and so you've had the opportunity to lead many people, both inside of the organization at exec levels as well as 1099 salespeople. When it comes to what you're talking about, having grace for someone, where somebody comes from, how they've been affected by that, but still applying, giving them opportunities to be responsible and actually expecting responsibility as a response. How do you look at that? Like, how do you gauge that so you're not letting somebody off the hook as a victim?
Sure.
But you're still telling them the best thing, but you're coming from a place of understanding.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a healthy level of understanding, as you're saying, and grace. And I think we can tell if people are actually trying and moving forward, versus people that, they want it for themselves less than I want it for them. And, I think it's so crucial in building any business that you surround yourselves with the right people, and you got to be really quick to make changes if they're necessary.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be quick to fire someone if they're not getting the job done, right? I mean, I'm going to be quick to give people another option, another opportunity. I'm going to give them the chance to really capitalize on opportunities, and I watch their feet. I watch, are they moving? Are they doing the right things? Are they giving effort? Yep. And that's generally a pretty easy thing to see, because if somebody's not doing a good job, but they are giving effort, and I think they have the ability to do it, then I got to look internally and say, well, I'm not doing a good enough job training this person or getting the person to live up to the standard that we're trying to create as an organization.
That's right.
And, so there's a give and take there. It's like, as a leader, you have to be willing to say, is this on them or is this on me? Because a lot of times it's going to be on me, because I haven't taken the time to set the right expectation, to actually define the standard, to create a culture so that they're held accountable not only by me, but by eventually themselves, but always by everyone else around them. And so, it takes time and it takes intentionality, because it's real easy to just, even especially with agents, to say, well, they're not doing it. I can do it. If I can do it, why shouldn't they be able to do it? And pretty soon it turns into, well, why am I the only one that's able to do this?
The self-doubt loop all of a sudden comes. It's like, I must be so good, and these other people must be so bad. It's like this
ego thing that happens too. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No,
because we're not, and I think especially even more so when you're talking about staff and the people that are helping you try to build the company internally, is, generally the way that it works is you're first hiring people to do the things that you're not good at, or that you don't like to do, or they're costing you money doing them. So it's my job to slow to hire, quick to fire, meaning I gotta find the right people to surround myself with, and then I gotta slow down, step away from maybe some things that feel like they're urgent or at least very important, and I gotta take the time to get them up to speed on what is expected and what they need to do their jobs. And I can't effectively grade them until I've given them that opportunity.
Yeah.
And if you find yourself constantly rotating through people, a lot of times it can come back to that. You're not intentional enough about spending enough time to make sure that someone that you knew, or at least from the resume and from the interview, had the ability to do the things that you need them to do. If they're not doing them, it's probably on me.
Yeah. And it's such a big deal, because we hear so many of the things like these chants of the business owner. It's so hard to find good people. It's, my people never do what I ask them. They're always looking for time. I'm like,
woe is me. Yeah.
It's this woe is me victim mindset. And they're like, why do all my people have a victim mindset? And this is just like, thankfully I've been around, I've had enough good association with the right people, like yourself, like other leaders within Symmetry, and other leaders and coaches outside of Symmetry as well, who have kind of put that into my head, so that it's almost like I have to laugh at myself at this point. It's like, you got to stop being a dumbass right now. If you say this,
have brutal honesty with yourself.
Yeah. If you say this is going to be really bad to give voice to, because now you've said it. And but I think the alternative, and the message that leaders need to hear is like, those same complaints that you have about your people may have those same complaints about you. And are those true? Because if we can just close those gaps and then learn how to, from that posture, bring that to other people, not from a place of desperation, but from a place of conviction, and a place of like knowing, hey, this is what the numbers should look like. Why aren't they there?
Yeah. And how do you get to that point without, being open enough and putting your ego enough in your back pocket to say that you're willing to take the feedback?
Yeah.
To take a look in the mirror. And it is the hardest thing to do, to poll people, to survey people, or to ask people, like, what are my blind spots? What am I not good at? How can I serve you better? That's a very difficult thing to do that most people aren't willing to do, but it's really the only way to kind of get to where you're talking about getting to.
That's funny that you say that. I found that to be easy because I just don't read the results. We send it out, make people think we're listening, never touch the results.
Right.
So as long as I
just
don't
say things like, "We heard you loud and clear.
Yeah, we got it.
We working on this.
Yeah, we received your feedback. We've brought it in, and as long as you keep giving a solid effort and improve your numbers, we will take that seriously."
That's right.
But that is a real thing. It's like it is really hard to get feedback, especially when you haven't been giving it recently. And for me, I find that if I see something and I don't say something, I get more frustrated, and then I lose belief that they'll even hear me. And then the communication gap is so wide at that point that only a sincere and conscientious effort to be vulnerable will allow me to bridge that gap.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's the that's
a tough word, isn't it? Vulnerability.
Did you hear me stutter in my head? So
it's a tough one.
Well, it is, because that's not a lot of the language around business and around leadership hadn't included words like vulnerability, positive psychology, productive conflict. It was all about I say jump, you say how high.
Especially in a sales culture, to where it's never enough.
Well,
right?
Yeah, it is. And I think sometimes what we do is we swing the pendulum too far. And that's where I've really appreciated your leadership over the years, is sometimes the pendulum can swing from this place of like, hey, I own you because you work in my business and you have to do what I say. And if you don't, it's like you're going to get blacklisted, right? And so there was this weird pressure manipulation side of things, rather than earning influence with somebody. And then there's this other side that's extremely permissive.
Yeah.
This permissive of like, everything goes, like, hey, you messed up, we understand.
Yeah. They're both equally as bad for the culture, right?
The last thing I would want in my life is a sympathetic paramedic. I don't want to be in a car accident and somebody pulls up.
You're probably going to be fine.
The ambulance pulls up and they're like, I'm so sorry this happened. It happened to my grandma 2 weeks ago. I hope you're going to be okay. I can't believe you got another act. Like, they're right there. I want an empathetic. But I want an action-oriented one. It's like,
we got to move on that one.
Hey, let's I can't even hear you because my ear is bleeding. Let's go. But that's the exact same thing with a leader. I don't need a sympathetic leader. What I need is somebody who has empathy and conviction, because that's what's going to give me confidence. And I think that's where a lot of leaders are really trying to find their footing and their voice in this culture, where it's so easy for somebody to say, that person said the wrong thing to me. Yeah. And sometimes it can feel wrong when the right things are said to you.
Sure.
So how do you continue to strike that balance? Because I know you've been doing this for over 20 years now at this point.
Well, I think we are constantly trying to improve upon the culture, which is one of results, but it's also one of grace, fun, growth personally, accountability. And I think, we try to always treat people probably better than they deserve, unless or until they've done something that, obviously is unforgivable. But I think that, there's what people are really looking for in our business, and probably most businesses, is to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They want to be seen. They want to be recognized. They want to be respected. And so I think there's an acceptance, there's a kindness that we want to have. But there's also maybe not a demand, but there's certainly an expectation for results. And I think the beauty of what we do is that those results can look however you want them to look.
Yep.
You get to choose that. But there's got to be a healthy communication so that I know that, so that I'm expecting more from you than what you're wanting to get. Because if you're using too many resources to get it, as an example, then are taking too much time from someone, from you. If some of your agents are taking too much time from you, you always got to understand. And I would have conversations with people that are not showing up to get better. At times when they should be showing up. They're not showing up to practice, but they want to call me after hours to kind of go over the playbook. Right. And it's like any minute that I'm giving you is minute I'm taking away from someone else. And a lot of that could be my wife or my children or the other things that I need to do in my life or other business partners or whatever. And so I think it's important that you set the expectation of, what do you do to get the time, because time is extremely important. Time from your leader is really important. And so the best coaches out there aren't going to give you all the time in the world if you're not showing up to practice. You ain't even going to be on the team. But I think that's what people want a lot of times, especially in a 1099 world, is because there is the idea and the reality that you get to work when you want to work in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you need to be taking time from somebody else that they're just free to give whenever they need to give it. Right. So I think, there's a lot of things like that we just try to do. Setting boundaries for yourself is extremely important. Yep. This is a business, and I think a lot of businesses, when you're a business owner like you are like this, to where it can feel like if you're not careful that you're always on.
Absolutely.
And there is nothing worse for most people than always being on.
Or being one of those people who's around someone who's always on.
Yeah. Yeah,
Dude, that's so annoying.
That's so annoying.
And I get it. There's a season for that, but if that's a lifetime,
you're going to burn yourself out, or you're going to live a short life. You know, we're not designed to do that. And as much purpose as you can get from your company and from the people that you surround yourself with, if you don't have balance in your life and you're not doing other things, then that can be, and usually is, pretty short-lived.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of what we're talking about is you've got to set boundaries for yourself to know, like, when we were starting the company, I was burning it at both ends. I had 2 kids at home that were very young, and luckily Meredith and I kind of talked through, like, this is going to be a season where I'm going to be gone a lot. But she was so good at saying, these are going to be the times that you can do everything you need to do with the family, and nothing gets in the way of that.
Yep.
Maybe it's Saturday morning and Sunday, maybe it's Friday night, whatever that may look like. But there are times when, just like everything else, you got to be extremely intentional about putting that stuff in your calendar. And then you got to have the boundaries to not let other things sneak in.
Because nobody will give those to you. And I think that's where business owners, including myself over the years, just continue to get better at setting those boundaries and watch people's response to them. Because the first time I met somebody with boundaries, I thought they didn't like me. I was like, I am not going to be friends with this person. And I ended up having a great friendship and an immense respect for that person, because what I figured out is they thought they were important enough to set boundaries, to communicate clearly with other people, to say, hey, if you want to be a friend with me, this is what it looks like. This is how I can be heard. And she was just dialed in and intentional. And the first time I was like, this is usually a lot more of a casual experience than this. But she had to, and
it sounds like a good example.
Yeah, it taught me, it taught me a lot, for sure. But there are times in our business where, especially in the beginning, where there's a huge focus on intensity, but that has to switch to longevity.
Yeah.
It's got to switch to longevity. And that is because that is where we see burnout, because you will begin, and I've been through this, I've done this personally as a leader, is burn out all the people around me, because I know how to do intensity for a long time, and I'm willing to sacrifice a lot for intensity without learning the lessons of where longevity plays a big part. And that's that transition as a business owner, I feel like is one that positive psychology allows you to arrive at, because you're in a place where it's like, yes, I can affect change in the way that I feel, because it's not just about getting through this day. It's not about building a business for the next 10 years. Yeah. This is thinking like a lot of experts in other countries do, about generational business, about longevity, about what are we going to do? How are we going to act in our business today so that it impacts whoever is around this business in 50 years from now, in 100 years from now? Are we setting the foundations right? And
well said.
Yeah.
It's just, I think a lot of what you're talking about is just, you plan all of that. It's all intentional.
Yep.
And that's the hard, that's actually the easy part, the planning and the being intentional, but then you stick to that. You hold yourself accountable to that.
Yeah.
You get graded on that. If you're lucky enough to surround yourself with people that, because we were talking about taking feedback earlier, I think it's really important that you're taking feedback from someone that is either where you want to be or that you love, admire, respect. It's really easy to take feedback from somebody that you may not necessarily want their feedback.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think what you're talking about is just, having the intentionality to kind of set the plan and live in it.
Yeah.
And the hard part's when it hits the pavement.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you going to not take that call from a potential client or an agent because you're with your family at a certain time? Even though if you haven't set the right expectation, it could have like a negative repercussion.
I remember one of a coach and a great friend. He was also the officiant at my wedding, Drew McClure.
Love Drew. Yeah.
He said, so when was the last time you prepared for a date like you prepared for a conference call? And I was looking at it, I was just
like, low blow, buddy.
Hey, it's like, easy. How about you? When was the last time you've done that? Okay.
He's probably like last night.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you're paying me. And it was so true. I was like, yeah, I just feel like I run out of things to say. And he's like, well, that's because you don't think of things to say. And he said, it's really simple. It's like, they don't need the same. As business owners, I think we struggle. We get pulled into two worlds and don't do well in either.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've seen from you over the years is this focus and this ability to say, my business is important to me and my family is important, and I'm going to give my business and my family what they need, and I'm going to do for myself what I need to do as well. Mm-hmm. And you have an understanding, and this is something I've definitely reflected on in your leadership and also in mine, is just, they don't need the same quantity of time. Mm-hmm. They just need the same quality of me. Mm-hmm. They just don't need to get the leftovers.
Sure.
They don't deserve the leftovers.
Yeah.
And that caused a lot of trouble in my life, and it's caused a lot of peace in my life since I've gotten that dialed in.
I mean, I've been extremely lucky to have, a wife that early on saw to it, a partner that saw to it that I did those things the right way. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know that I would have always been intentional about that had I not been taught the importance and been held to a standard that this is the way it needs to happen. A lot of people aren't lucky enough to kind of have grown up in a way where you learn those things, right? So I think that's why it's so important to kind of surround yourself with people that can help you hold that mirror up.
Yeah.
It's so important that you surround yourself and you have someone that you can trust and count on that can do that, because, when you're going through a phase in your life where you feel like you really want something and you really need to get a lot of work done to get there to where you're trying to go, it's really, really easy to let other things slip that are probably more important.
At the end of the day,
they're probably more important than what you're actually trying to accomplish.
I think it's easy to get to the top and go to the top without the people around you that you love and care about. It just becomes hard to come down.
Oh yeah, it's like very lonely up there. It's not worth it at all.
Exactly. You realize you did all the things, and you've got that destination disease, and you're just, and then you get there. It's like, where's the next mountain? It's like, oh, the next mountain is right where you left them. Yep. Down at base camp. It's like that,
getting them back.
Yeah, exactly. Now you got to climb that one. That definitely has been a big lesson for me, for sure.
Hey, this is Brian Delaney with Unlock Potential. I want to invite you to join our Patreon, where we release to you exclusive content so that you can get to the next level of your life and have the tools necessary to build the life of your dreams, have the relationships that you desire, and truly be a part of a community of people who not only desire growth, but are making it happen now. We'll see you there.
Going back to what you said, you talked about, you were just saying growing up, and I think it's funny if we could take our leadership driver's license, or if imagine if our insurance licenses had a picture of them from our first one. You go back, I have a lot of my driver's license. I go back, I'm like, they let me drive a car? That's great. Probably wasn't advisable, and I feel the same way about my insurance license. It's like, wait, they said it was okay. Yeah. And I had experience before that, but I think a lot of people, they look at somebody who's had the success that you've had, both personally and professionally, with your family. I just got to see Addie Ruth, and she's a confident, young lady, just watching your kids and watching them develop. So personal success, professional success, they think that you were always this guy. And so what was it? What was that like growing up, and where do you feel like, what lessons do you feel like you learned that still serve you today?
Oh God, there's probably, hundreds, if not thousands of my father was, my stepfather came into the picture when I was about 5 or 6 years old. My father and mother got separated before I was born. And so when my mom got remarried, she married a preacher in Alabama. And the denomination that he was a part of, you got to move about supposed to be probably every 6 or 7 years. That's if you're lucky. It could be every 3 or 4 years. And so, they've been married for a year, and then we pick up in 3rd grade or 4th grade and moved to a new town, and I stayed there for 3 years and picked up, moved to a new town, and then a couple years and moved to a new school, then finished high school and went to college. So I lived around a lot of people, and I had to learn pretty quickly how to connect with those people. Man, being a kid is tough.
Yeah.
It's easy to get bullied. It's easy to, it's really can be challenging when you're the new kid. And so I had to learn how to talk. I had to learn how to connect. I had to learn, there's also a level of toughness that I had to learn. I think changing schools, I was a public school kid my whole life. And then for high school, my parents sent me to a private school. I think they saw the direction I was going in, and they were like, this is probably not going to end well. So extremely grateful that they were able to get me into a really small little private school. And I think that changed the course of my life. Not only because I got a much better education, but also because I had to develop a different type of toughness. I had a little chip on my shoulder because I was behind from an education standpoint. I didn't want to be the kid that was behind. I also didn't want to be, forever the person that had the least amount of money.
Yeah.
And so for the first time in my life, I was around, successful business people that I had never been around these folks. And what I learned is that these are actually really good people. These are like kind. Most of them are extremely nice. I don't know where you grew up, but when you grow up, it's like you hear that, people with money are bad. And not that my family ever said that, but it's just kind of the messaging when you're lower middle class or whatever. And
we're going to have to cut that part out. Okay, we cannot break down the myth that wealthy people are bad. This will not. I refuse to allow that. Dave, make sure to cut that part out. There's a few
that was
things.
So important to
Evil,
my
bad, sad.
I'm telling you though, it was so important to my development. I would go over to friends' houses, and they would have nice houses, and some of them would have swimming pools, and some of them would have fancy cars or lake houses or a second house or some of these other things. And that created, that drove me so much, because I think before that point in my life, I never even thought that having something like that or becoming someone like that was a possibility.
Yeah.
And so I think there was, like, when I was really young, I had to develop a grit and toughness around kind of like physical grit and toughness. Yeah. And I think later on, and even into college, developed a grit and toughness and a desire to, go accomplish something with your life. And I see these people that have done that, and you're different than they are.
Yeah.
And I was able to kind of hunker down, catch up academically, finished really, high in my class, went to Alabama, and again surrounded myself with people that were doing really well. Yeah. I was in a fraternity. I had to pay for it myself, but because I joined that fraternity, I met Matt Goforth, who's helped me start companies and has been my personal attorney and now the company's attorney for many, many, many years. Todd Spivey, who's, in charge of our sales. You got, I've done business with other fraternity members, and not that fraternity, sororities, anything matters. It's just like who you associate with is going to ultimately determine where you go. Oh yeah. And how you get there. And I've been lucky enough to find some ride or die friends that have helped us accomplish some really, really good things. And we've done those things together. Chase Allen is another person that joined the organization a couple of years ago that was a fraternity brother of mine. So I'm a big believer in who you're associating with.
Yep.
And without those things, had I not decided to go to Alabama, because I was raised by Auburn people, I kind of became a Bama fan because my grandfather and aunt kind of taught me how to rebel against my parents a little bit. Had I not made that decision, I was 10 years old when I made that decision. And because of that, I met all the people I just mentioned. I met my wife also because of the people that I just mentioned.
Yep.
I end up in first Colorado and then here in Asheville, start the company because of all those things. I meet Casey Watkins. So there's all these little sliding door moments that are fun to kind of look back and think through, like, what if I had not made that decision? Some of the most important decisions you can make, though, are who are you deciding to spend your time with?
Yeah.
Who are you taking advice from? Who are you associating with? You know, that stuff, especially now that as a father, like you are, you understand how important that stuff is.
Oh, yeah.
Like one of the things that you get most worried about is like, is my kid hanging out with the right people? Are they taking advice and mentoring and coaching from the right people?
That's right.
It's the most important thing that you can do as a parent is to make sure that your kids are doing those things. So, you know, there were a lot of lessons like that kind of coming through life. And then of course, coming into the business, there was a ton of lessons. Casey and I worked with a guy that probably taught us for 7 years, for 4 of the 7 years, maybe even 5 of the 7 years, it was really good. The economy kind of tanked. It started to get really bad. We learned a lot about how to do things the right way. And then at the end, we learned a lot about how not to do things. And all lessons are important.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think what shaped the culture a lot of the company is some of the stuff that he and I had to go through in some of those really tough years. I mean, I think it was tough for everybody in 08, 9, and 10, but I think going through all of that is what taught us who we wanted to be, who we wanted to try to become, and what we wanted to try to build.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get to be the recipient of a lot of both of those lessons. Once you learned of what to do and the hell no, I'm not going to be that way, right? That's a big thing. And I think this is a point I want to stop at, because there's a lot of people who and people experience this organizationally as leaders, and people experience this as part of a team, is where they start learning from somebody, they start to associate with somebody. In the beginning, they just project what they want on the person. They don't see the real person, but over time, that projection starts to break down. You start to get to the real person. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, that person's real. I'm a real person. And it's like, oh, I don't like that about that person. And then they use that reality to start picking them apart. What I've seen from you is for you to create an organization where people around you, they're able to go through this process of very, very dependent in the beginning to this place where they become a great leader in their own right, to this place where they become better than, I see this on my team. I have leaders who are way better than me at what they do than I am at what they do.
Well, that's what you're open for constantly.
But as a leader, there's a chance that you take. There's a risk. There's a risk that you take there. It's like, wow, this person has a lot of influence and sway with the members of my company, and I'm not bullying them back down, right? I'm not like putting them in that position, but instead I'm creating space around me for a big table of people who can, and where we're going to grow from that.
Yeah.
What's your experience been with that? Because I know you bring a lot of authority with you and a lot of conviction, but you're still able to do this other thing where it's like create space for people to grow around you. Yeah. They don't have to just grow beneath you, but they can grow up around you. What's that?
Yeah, I think that's what every leader is striving to do is how do I help people, find their path? And that's going to take maybe a little bit more work in the beginning, and for them to kind of be able to get to where they're going and to understand the value of, like we always say, man, they got to work on themselves to become the type of person that can get to where they're going. But I have to have grace to see them through that part, because it can be messy. And I think you're spot on. Like most leaders will let the ego talk a little bit and actually self-sabotage, because you've got somebody that is in your organization and they're coming up and they're doing really well. And, am I going to lose my ability to have an impact or my ability to have a relationship with other people because they're going to outshine me.
Yeah.
Right. And then ultimately what ends up happening is people try to hold people back, and then there's resentment, and it never, ever ends well.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think you see some of the best coaches out there. Of course, I'm a big Alabama fan, and I think Nick Saban is such a great leader for so many reasons. He gets beat up in the media a little bit. That's okay. But he has created an organization everywhere he's been where he feels like his job is to go hire people and then move them on to become and do their own thing.
Yep.
And when you look at the lineage of coaches that have kind of come from that, Kirby Smart doing what he's done in Georgia, you know, Lane Kiffin. I mean, we can go on and on. There's probably 5 or 6 coaches just in the SEC, Sarkisian's at Texas. I mean, all these huge programs that Nick Saban, if he were to do what you were talking about and bring them in and say, I need to hold you down, you need to be an offensive coordinator here forever. No. You know, now that he has created this perfect process of bringing people in, a lot of times rehabbing their career, and sending them off, and it's amazing how quickly that happens.
That's phenomenal.
2 years is what it would take for him to bring in a Lane Kiffin, or 3 years that was like a pariah in football, or Steve Sarkisian, who got left on the tarmac because he was going through some really hard personal struggles. It took him 2 years to rehab him and get him to one of the best jobs in all of college football, which was the University of Texas. And it's, you know, I think that there's so many great lessons in that your job as a leader is not to hold people back. It's to get people to where they need to be. If that's even better than you, great.
Yeah.
That means that you've done a much better job than even you set out to be. That shouldn't reflect poorly on you. You know, it only will if you don't manage that the right way.
Yep.
And so I think that's, as leaders, that should be all of our goals, is how do I find someone, give them grace to the transitional periods, you know, be there for them when they need probably less and less as they move along their path, but still be there to mentor them. And I may look up one day and this person's making twice the impact of the income that I'm making. That's not a bad reflection on me, man. That's how you build purpose in what you're doing.
That's right. And I think as a leader, we learn lessons along the way, especially if you're more than that just by way of title, but you can look behind you and you can see, and you can look beside you and you can see that team that you've really grown and developed. But all along the way, we learn these lessons of having to sacrifice what we have so we can have more of that. Having to sacrifice this thing that we got as a reward for all of our work. And you're saying, I got to let go of that in order, yeah, indeed you will. Like your expertise. You're going to have to sacrifice your expertise in order to raise experts.
Yeah.
You're going to have to sacrifice this ego and this conviction that you've had in order to create the space for other people who have that. And when you try to hold on to people, sometimes you hold them back. And it minimizes their ability to act thoughtfully and become one of those people who are right by your side, who are saying, hey, look at this over here. And I see your leadership team, especially the top levels. It's like, you've got a 360 degree view, because there's people watching out for things all around, and people who are prepared to do it. And that's strong. The
most important thing you can have after a even 10-year career, 15-year career is relationships.
Yeah.
The positive relationships that you create, because you never know where your path is going to go. And, you see people burn those things out, burn those relationships to the ground. Casey and I used to say, you see people constantly chasing a $5 bill into traffic. Like, what are we doing? We're sacrificing so much for like a very short-term gain that is probably going to come back and bite me really hard one day, because I'm going to need you, Brian. I'm going to need other people that we've worked with. And I think the respect that you can kind of get from helping people get to where they're going, and the relationships you build because of that, because of the sacrifice you make, most important thing that you can give to people. But people don't see it that way. And then they end up oftentimes, not where they had planned to be, and certainly not surrounded by the people that they hope to be surrounded by. But the bottom line is, like, we only have so much time in a day.
Yeah.
I only have so much time in my calendar year. If I'm spending time holding people back, that's time that I could be spending lifting people up.
Yeah. And
so I got to be very wise with how I'm spending my time, just like everything else in business. How are you investing your time and your energy? And if you're doing it for positive things, positive things will happen. If you're doing it for spiteful or ego-driven things, positive things are probably not going to happen. And if they do happen, it won't be for very long.
Sure. And that's something when we had Casey on, he drew that distinction. He said, does it work and does it last? Does it work? And like, how do you sleep at night and how long is your organization going to really last? Because for me, that's one of the reflective points. It's like, I may think that I've done a lot of development as a leader, and which I know I can see that over time. I know the work that I've put in, but I look at other people and I see, my goodness, that person doesn't seem like they've done nearly the development, but they're killing it. They're killing it. And it's like, what's their experience behind the scenes and how long does their organization last? And I think that's what you're hitting on.
You know, you never want to fall into the trap of comparing yourself with other people. I think everybody's
comparison trap.
You know, everybody's got their stuff, you know, who knows what served them in the past. And, you know, I think it's important to know that, man, everybody's fighting a fight that we know nothing about. And they may have fought the good fight in the past, and they may be going through something now that when you're seeing them for the first time makes them come across a way that probably they don't want to come across, but it does. And so I think just as a human, the best thing you can have is as little judgment as possible.
Yeah.
You know, because everybody's going through something.
That's right.
We all know nothing about what it is. And that person that I work with may show up and just be having a really bad day, and you can see it on their face or you can see it in their actions. Yeah. I'm not saying you tolerate that kind of stuff for forever, obviously, because you're trying to maintain a culture, but you know, just don't judge. Life's a lot easier if you don't.
Or just like communicate. So you figure it, like that's it. It's, you know, if you can approach it with that, because that whole idea of you don't know the war somebody's fighting behind the scenes. I mean, how many times have I been on the other side of that, where I was fighting the war and I was trying to do that, and then somebody, oh, that guy is strange. It's like, you should see the shit that's going on in my life. That's what's strange. like that's I'm doing my best over here. I'm fighting. I think
that's
for my
the
life.
right. Meredith always says, man, just if you will assume everybody's doing the absolute best they can do, frustration will go way down. And as I tell her every time she says that, man, it's a lot easier said than done.
Oh yeah.
But you just assume the best, right? Assume the best in people. Everybody's doing the best they can.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking on that, you're being the co-founder, one of the co-founders of Symmetry and Quility. When I came into the organization, I start selling insurance. I pull up for the first day for my interview, and I see Casey Casey asked me if my car, he was like, do you drive a Volkswagen Jetta? And I was like, yeah. He's like, oh, I thought that was my car that I was selling. And I was like, you got to be far further ahead of me than this. Like, it like worried me. I was like, you're selling a Volkswagen? When did you get it? Like, was this, how long have you been trying to sell that for? Do you have a nicer car? Like, I had so many questions. But another thing that I saw.
That's part of that sales trap culture though, right?
Oh,
like
100%.
most places you come from, especially in a sales culture, is like, man, I got to show it.
Oh.
If I'm making it, I better show it. I better be wearing it. I better be driving it. I better be living in it.
Even if I'm not.
Especially if I'm not.
And that's what I was used to. I was used to like people flaunting it, and like, you know, so many people saying they make six figures. Somehow the insurance industry has 100% six-figure earner rate. Like, it's crazy when you talk to people, not when you check their bank accounts though. Right. So, but you know, Casey was there. I heard your name on the leaderboards early on, and you both were out there making it happen. And at one point, I was like, man, in my mind, I was like, there's a level of success that I want to see in the organization. And on the other side, I was like, I know what this is. They're in it. They're in it. They're making it happen, and the organization has just continued to grow and propel forward through the more people we serve, the more partners, the more great partnerships we have, the more lessons we learn. Not only you guys as owners, but us as a leadership team, and having great people by the side. We've done all this growth. Most organizations would be in a place where it's like, no, we're good. We're making what we need to make. We're doing that.
Yep.
Number one, what drives you? Number two, where do you see Quility and Symmetry, the organization that you're one of the leaders of, going to next?
Yeah. You know, I think what you're talking about is, do you want a leader that is going to do what they say you need to do.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
and not that you can do everything, because you're hiring for positions, obviously, that you've never done when you get to a certain level. But when it comes to, you know, the insurance business, it would be really hard for me to take advice from somebody that didn't deal with clients, didn't deal with agents, didn't deal with the tough personalities of that. And I'm a big believer that people are going to follow and move a lot faster based on what you do and not what you say.
That's right.
And, you know, we also really needed to do that, man. You came in at a great time where the company was so new that we were fighting our way through it and trying to figure things out. So in terms of what drives us, I think the beauty of a lot of the work that we've done and continue to do is the understanding that what drives me today is not going to be what drives me tomorrow. What drove me, you know, in 2009 was getting out of debt and trying to start a company and fighting a lawsuit, you know, and trying to spend as much time with my family along the way as I could. And so I think you constantly have to reassess those things because of the way, as we've talked about, the way the brain works. I mean, you may get to where you're making $1 million a year, Brian, and you're going to wonder what it feels like to make $2. Yeah. You know, and you're constantly going to be wanting those that gratification of where you're going. But I do think it's important that you continually reassess those things so that you do have something out in front of you. You know, it's a big part of, I think, the purpose work that we've done. But I think what drives us now, and I can speak for Casey, probably said the same thing, is seeing other people have a level of success that they never thought that they could have. Seeing people have the ability to experience life and things and have more time and freedom than they've ever had. And I think if you really could kind of boil it down to one word, it would just be impact. You know, because we have this huge group of like-minded people that are all so different. They have the ability to go out and have an impact on not only themselves and their families, but their communities, the charitable organizations that they choose to work with, and the clients that we're sitting with from a retirement perspective and from a perspective of when they're having to deal with the worst day of their life and having to still have time to grieve and not be thinking about how their house is going to be, their mortgage note's going to be paid, right? So I think it's all about impact. And I think that's the beauty of this business is that, you know, you're compensated directly proportionate to the impact that you make. And that's me, that's you, that's every other agent and agency owner that we have in the company. The bigger the impact, the more money they're going to make. The more families you help as a salesperson, the more money you're going to make, which is a great way to be.
That's right.
But I think the bigger the company gets and the things that we're working on behind the scenes with Quility in terms of, you know, what that's going to look like in a couple of years, I have an idea. It's probably going to change a little bit. I think a lot of the products that we're putting out there and a lot of the way that we'll be engaging with clients, it is going to revolutionize the way that you buy and sell life insurance, and even annuities and other types of insurance down the road. The way that people can get underwritten more specifically so that they're getting more value out of the stuff that they're purchasing, I think is such a great gift that Quility's going to be offering people. You know, you're not going to be overpaying for certain things, or you're not going to, you don't have to worry, am I getting the best deals, or am I getting the best value? I think for an agent, man, things even now, going through what we did in 2020 to 2022, making a transition from in-person to virtual, to so many people even do just telesales now, which is crazy to me to even think about. That would have scared the hell out of me in 2012. And it scared me in 2020, you know? But the way that you guys responded and the way we kind of pulled this committee together and got it going, why don't we take a dip for 2 weeks? And then we were right back up, you know? And I think that said a lot about the resiliency of the organization, but not, if we had not gone through that change, so much of this other stuff that we're doing now or working on wouldn't even be possible.
That's right.
And so there's no telling what the changes that will happen over the next few years. We may be throwing another nasty curveball and have to adjust to it. And I expect that we probably will. But, you know, Casey and I have so much, and Pope too, have so much gratitude and Meredith for the people that we've surrounded ourselves with and the grit and resilience that the organization has, because we know that it's going to be all right. Regardless of what happens, it's going to be all right, because people will move and buy into what needs to happen for the organization to keep going and going strong. And so I think things are going to look a lot differently. I think people are going to be making a lot more money in a lot less time. We were talking to somebody on a call today that made $18,000 on like 19 policies in 2 days.
Yeah.
You know, and I think there's crazy. More and more of that stuff. I mean, how many people have we heard from this year that are part of the $100,000 in a month club of going out and writing, not a lot of IULs, which some of them are doing that. That's great. But we're talking like 100 applications.
116 applications for 110,000 for one. Another one was it was 100 and 100, or just right in there. It's like, if we would have saw that before, we would have like barricaded the windows for like a week, and like while we were trying to find out what
there'd be a statue of that person out there. When I was coming up in the business,
some parade or chains. Two. We were gonna get arrested or throw a parade.
I mean, but I think like that's the tip of what's coming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there are always going to be people that need our help to protect their families. As long as people love and care for each other, as long as people have families, there's always going to be a need for life insurance. And oftentimes when times are hard or bad, like COVID or like 2008, 9, and 10, people know that they need it even more. And so I think you and I are extremely lucky that we landed somewhere that has so far been recession and pandemic proof, and allowed us to add value in those moments where people need it the most. But I think it's going to keep on getting better. I think we're not even starting to see the potential of, with everything coming out, with AI, with Switchboard, with the way that we communicate with clients, with, the ability to find the people that do need your product. It won't be long. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point this year somebody has a $200,000 month.
Yeah.
It's just a matter now of, are you putting the right amount of time in to go help the right number of people? And if you do that, you're going to be compensated the right way.
That's right.
And I still can't believe what we're seeing right now with some of the numbers coming out. It blows me away. Every single week on the leaderboard, it just blows me away. And it's a whole different group of people.
Yeah.
We got doctors, we got people that were dropped out of high school. We got servers, we got dishwashers, we got, it's engineers, contractors. I mean, it takes all kinds, as long as you're the right type of person. And you and I've said this forever, like, man, when you figure out that you can do this and you want to do this, you'll never want to do anything else. And I think that's when you found your sweet spot in life, regardless of what business that you land in. Maybe that's what all the guidance counselors are trying to teach us. Just go do what you love. I was like, well, that's a terrible idea because I'm 18 years old. I don't need to be going and doing what I love right now. I need to go figure out what I love, and hopefully we'll get lucky enough to land somewhere where we can do that.
Or just like, that's the mistake that people make. It's like, well, I can't love insurance. It's like, hey, I've got great news. You can just do it with a lot of love.
Yeah.
You don't have to you don't have to look at the vehicle and be
I'll tell you,
go talk to your grandfather and ask him if he loved what he did for a living.
Oh God.
It's like they gave him a Rolex watch because he lasted so long.
I know. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this, man, you deal with a family where you've had to deliver a death benefit or a disability benefit, or you've saved someone's retirement, and tell me you don't love what you do.
If you can't get behind that, like, just the fact that people, I've had the opportunity, and this was, I've made telesales, and when I was making telesales, I was sitting there because I saw the team struggling a little bit, and so I just picked up leads for 2 weeks. I was like, I'm just going to do this, right? I'm just going to sort it out. I let the lead sit in my system for 2 weeks because we were going to Costa Rica. No speed to lead, nothing. Come back. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to make this happen. These people want insurance. So I talked to them. I got to talk to people who were willing to buy something that they would never use, buy something that they would never wear, never drive, never even see the benefit of. They would just see the document, but they knew that was going to make a difference for their family. And even in the midst of all those intangibles, they still decided to do it. They decided to make their life a little bit harder right now in one perspective, but give themselves a peace of mind of knowing that they were going to be the shield for their family.
Absolutely. It's the most selfless product you can sell and buy.
If you can't get behind doing that, then you just don't like people.
Yeah.
You just don't like people.
And that's okay too. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
It ain't for everybody.
That's why they have engineering degrees, and we even see those guys work out. I've got one as a mentor.
That's right.
Who thought an engineer could love people? He's loved me well.
Chemical engineering guy from Yale. So,
yeah.
We used to always say, man, it's proof that smart people can do this thing too.
Yeah. I feel like proof for everybody else. So what I want to do is I want to close out this section of the interview, and I just want to take about 5 to 10 minutes to give people just more exclusive content for our subscribers. Okay. I want to talk to you about sales. I want to talk to you about being likable, and I want to talk to you about the one thing that you see leaders do that really change people's minds and hearts to follow them.
Okay.
So be processing that in the 30 seconds before we switch over.
Sure.
But I want to say thank you for joining me for the main part.
Thank you, buddy.
It's always good.
Thanks again for joining us for this conversation. Head right over to our Patreon for exclusive content, including more from our conversation today. Thank you all for joining our conversations. We're developing this platform for simple, profound tools and techniques that can help you get the best out of your life and, more importantly, unlock potential. You can find me across all social platforms at The Brian Delaney, and online, come visit us at thebriandelaney.com.